I'm here today with the Andrews, the cross-country Andrews from Team GB, and they are Andrew Musgrave. Hi, Andy.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
And Andrew Young. Hi, Andrew.
Hello. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure. And if it's okay, you both being Andrews, I'm going to refer to you as Muzzie and Youngie, respectively, because that might make it a bit easier for us. Is that okay?
Easier for us to understand each other as well.
Okay, super. That's brilliant. So let's start off. Just remind us where you are. Let's start off with you, Muzzie. Where are you just now?
I am at my base at home in Trondheim, Norway, and we'll be heading off to join Andrew in a day or two for the next World Cup race.
Right. So, okay. I did read earlier that there's a World Cup race in Davos this weekend. So, Youngie, you're already over in Switzerland, are you?
Yeah, I've been in Davos now for 10, 11, 12 days. So I came on Monday last week. Davos is a kind of medium-high altitude. So we've been wanting to get a bit of a block here in Davos before competing here on Saturday.
But great. And tell me, Muzzie, what's the snow like over in Trondheim in Norway just now?
It's actually not too bad. Trondheim's not always the best early season skiing. It's a little bit, we're on the coast, so it's quite often snows and then rains a bit, and then snows a bit and then rains a bit early season. But it's actually pretty good now. It's been cold for the last couple of weeks. We've got a decent amount of snow. So they've got most of the tracks here pisted, so it's not been too bad.
That's good. And Youngie, I happen to know that the Alps is in the middle of a massive dump at the moment, so there's a lot of snow out there. Is that kind of bad for you as a cross-country skier?
Well, I also live in Trondheim, and normally we like to get away from Trondheim before Christmas so that we can get in skiing on good conditions. But there's better snow in Trondheim than there is here in Davos. So it's been a bit frustrating to be sitting here in Davos and skiing round in circles, and then finding out that in Trondheim back at home there's been really good conditions. So it's been a bit frustrating. Here in Davos they have got good snow. But Davos is one of the few places in the Alps where it's free for the cross-country ski trails are free. So they've been very, very, very lazy with the grooming. So there's lots and lots and lots of snow, and they're just not grooming any of the trails. So they've groomed a little bit more whilst we've been here and opening up more and more trails, but it's taking them forever. So we've been skiing around on about 10 to 12k of snow, which has been really good quality and really high quality trails, just not very long.
I can see how that could be frustrating. I wonder if I could just take you back a little bit. You are both proud Scot.
So I was born in England, but I only lived there for about a year. So I kind of feel, or like if I could talk about home, then home for me is Scotland. But so I feel like Scottish people think I'm English because I was born in England, whereas English people think I'm Scottish because I've lived there way longer than I lived in England. So nobody really wants me.
For sure. Well, I'm hoping to go to Scotland later this year, this season in March, hopefully. But, I would be going up there to go, what you might call alpine skiing. I mean, I'd do ski touring. But you wouldn't necessarily think of Scotland as being a base for cross-country. But I think you two both know each other from the same Nordic Ski Club from back in the day. You trained together from an early age. And according to my research, that was Huntly Nordic Ski Club, which I had a quick look at just now. I wondered, Youngie, how you transitioned. How did you get the cross-country bug?
Mainly through my parents. My parents were involved with the Huntly Nordic Ski Club, and to be honest, I didn't really have a choice. That's what the family did at the weekend. Was we went cross country skiing, and a lot of our social life was involved through people, friends and family, friends of the family through the club. So a lot of what we did in the winter when we were younger was with the ski club, and so I didn't really get much of a choice. And then when I got older and realized that I was quite good at sports and got competitive in a lot of different sports. I did swimming at quite a high level, a bit of triathlon. I played rugby as well until I was 15. That I kind of realized that cross-country skiing was the one that I enjoyed the most, and also the one that meant I could travel and and also I was reasonably good. So then it was quite easy to choose cross-country skiing.
Right. Okay. Well, that kind of makes sense. And I saw they've got some really good facilities there, like an all-weather track and a roller ski track. What about yourself, Muzzie? How did you get involved with the Nordic Ski Club?
So I actually have lived a few different places in my life because of my dad's job. So we travelled around a wee bit, and we ended up living in Alaska for 5-6 years.
Right.
So it was a bit more normal to ski there than it was in Scotland. But so I kind of learned to ski in Alaska. When I was 11, we moved back to Scotland, and I wasn't like a particularly good skier or anything in Alaska, but I saw when we moved there that there was a local cross-country ski club, and I decided, oh, that sounded like a good way to get to know people my own age. It was something I could already do. So it was actually kind of, moving back to Scotland then that I got involved with the club, and it was through the club that I sort of became a cross-country skier, because I'd done it a wee bit in Alaska, but not at all as a good competitive racer or anything.
Great. And how old were the two of you when you met then, Muzzie?
I was 9.
So I moved back when I was 11, and I'm a couple of years older than Youngie, and so it was he was 9, I was 11.
Right. I mean, that's very impressive, which means that your kind of career racing and training together is around 20 years old now.
Yeah, about 20 years. I'm 29 now, so yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So, I mean, obviously you started in Scotland, but I believe that, a while ago you moved and based yourself in Norway. How did that come about, Youngie?
For me, Andrew had been there he moved to Norway the year before me. And we, kind of everybody saw that he made a kind of a step the year that he was there, became a better skier. And the way the British team was operating at that point was we'd kind of leave the UK in the autumn and then be traveling around all winter from different races and different training camps, and then go back to the UK in the spring. And for me, I kind of realized that was a bit too tiring. Like, there was too much travel. I was never really at a place that was home. And so I was looking to set a base up to race out of a permanent base. And then just through a contact, a Norwegian coach in Norway who I met at a race in the spring of 2010, he said to me, "What are you doing next year?" And I said, "Well, we've not really got anything planned yet." He said, "Yeah, why don't you come to Norway and train with the training group in Iain?" So I ended up and I moved to Iain and spent 2 years in Iain, and then since then I've lived in both Lillehammer and Trondheim. So it was really this Norwegian coach, Geir Endre, that invited me over to Norway, and I stayed.
That's great. And Muzzie, are you based together? You're living in different cities. You're both in Trondheim?
Or we've both lived in various different places in Norway. There's like so many places with like a ton of skiers where there's always good training groups and stuff. And so until last year, we hadn't been at the same place. But then Youngie got himself a girlfriend in Trondheim, which is where I'm based. And so he moved up here. So for the last couple of years, we've been based in the same place.
And when was it that you moved over there to Norway?
Oh, I was finished with secondary school in Scotland, and then I did a year just sort of traveling around racing, and wasn't 100% sure that I was going to become a cross-country skier full time. I thought maybe I'd just start studying at uni in Britain. But then I had this dead good year when I was finished with school and had a full season on snow. And then I kind of decided that I wanted to give it a proper shot. And then if you want to do that, you've got to be somewhere where there's good conditions all winter. And that ended up being Norway. And so that was when I was 19, so 2009.
Right, that was some time ago. And I think I'm right in saying that you're both bilingual. You both speak Norwegian pretty well, right?
But I'm going to say that Muzzie says that my Norwegian is probably not that good, but I get by.
Well, I think it seems to be
bad.
Seems to be pretty good, because I watched like a trailer for a TV program that Norwegian TV are doing about the British underdogs, which is featuring you. Is that right? It's coming out soon?
Yeah, it's going to be about. It's basically NRK are going to. I've been following the team, the whole British team through the off season, and they're following us through all the World Cups. I'm going to make a documentary. I'm not entirely sure how many episodes it's going to be. From what I've heard, it's going to be between 4 and 6 episodes of 20 minutes. And yeah, should be coming out. The first episode should be before Christmas, from what I've heard. So
that's quite exciting. Yeah, because I mean, in Norway, we talk about Nordic sports anyway, and cross country skiing and Nordic skiing was in the Olympics a long time before alpine skiing. So I think it has a higher profile. Norway, obviously, strongly tipped to top the medal table in Beijing as well. I was watching one of the trailers, and Muzzie, I noticed there was one scene there where it looked like you had a really bad black eye. I wondered how that came about.
Yeah, that wasn't actually a black eye. That was just a couple of weeks before the start of this season. I got shingles in my eye, so the whole entire side of my face swelled up, or around the eye did. So yeah, that was shingles.
Gosh. Okay, I thought it was a fool, but that must have been really difficult. And you've basically been dealing with injury, because I think Youngie was it last season. You ended up you got a fracture in your fibula and ended up competing again within a month.
Yeah, I think it was exactly 4 weeks until I competed again. The fracture was not. It was not it wasn't serious. I was never in a cast or anything like that. But I had about 10 days where I couldn't put weight on my legs, or I couldn't put weight on that leg. And then I had about 3 weeks of alternative training and a week of skiing on snow before I tried to race. I did race, but in reality, I'd lost a bit too much fitness to be at my peak shape. Now it's fine, and now I've been able to train properly. Really, about 2 months after, I wasn't noticing it at all. So yeah, but most of the problem was actually not the fracture itself, but all the small muscles in the lower leg are really controlling your balance. And in cross-country skiing, there's a lot of balance work, a lot of standing on one leg. And if you're not quite 100% in your balance work and all that, then it becomes quite noticeable in your ski technique.
I can see how you wouldn't expect at all to be in top form given that. I mean, as far as training is concerned, then you're both competing, I think, in the sprint distance and longer distance races. Do you want to just remind us, Youngie, how long you'd be actually competing for in those races?
So I compete in everything from a sprint to a 50k, and a sprint is about 1,500 meters. They can be plus minus depending on the stadium, and it takes about 3 minutes. And in a sprint, the format is such that you do a prologue in the morning, and then if you qualify right to the rounds of quarterfinal, semifinal, final. So you'd end up doing that 4 times in the space of 3 hours if you make it to the final. So if you say that to a 1,500 meter runner, they'll tell you that it's definitely not a sprint. And then as the events get longer, we get a 15k, which takes about 30 to 35 minutes. We have a 30k, which takes just over an hour 10, hour 15, hour 20, something like that. And we have a 50k, which we expect to take about 2 hours, depending on the conditions. It can be sometimes as short as 150, sometimes as long as 220, 230. So depending on the conditions.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a massive range there. Quite hard to be able to compete at a high level over something that's taking 3 minutes. Lots of really short, sharp exertions, and then the endurance stuff as well. Muzzie, what kind of training do you do to work for those events?
Lots. So we do similar training to a lot of other endurance sports, so like cycling, running. So it's about getting hours in the bank. So yeah, we do a ton of skiing in the winter. That's what we mostly do. And then in the summer, when there's no snow, we've got these wee things called roller skis, which look like sort of little metal planks with wheels on them that we can use on the roads, and it simulates cross-country skiing quite well. So yeah, we just get in a lot of hours on skis, roller skis, mostly long distance sessions, and then we'll have 2, 3, 4 higher intensity sessions a week, where we're doing pushing race pace plus. And then we mix things up with a bit of gym work, and then we do quite a lot of running and a bit of cycling as well. So a lot of just general endurance training is the main thing.
Yeah, and a mix, and obviously I'm assuming you do periodization. I think I read somewhere, Youngie, that previously you've kind of peaked quite early in the season in December, and you're looking to try and change that training to peak a little bit later for the Olympics this year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's historically my best results have always been in December, and trying to sort of push that back to early February for the Olympics. There's been a bit of a thing we've discussed about this year. So far, it seems to be going well, but that just means I haven't gone very fast yet this year. So
you're still working more on the base training side of things and bringing the speed in a little bit later on.
Yeah, a little bit, and also in the past we've kind of prioritized maybe racing a little bit more through the middle section of the season, whereas this year we've really given myself time. So I'm going to race this weekend in Davos and the weekend after in Dresden, and then after that I've really given myself time to go and do a big training block. And we've at the moment we've really put together a period there of 3 weeks where I can really smash out a massive training block, which would tend to simulate what I'd normally do in October, November, before when I'm normally in good shape in December. So it's to simulate that, doing this big training block just a month and a half later, as we get a month and a half closer to the Olympics. So hopefully it goes well. We'll see. Got to stay away from all the distractions of Christmas and just focus on training through that period. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I mean, this will be, I think, your fourth Olympics, won't it? Be the fourth Olympics for both of you.
Yeah.
So, as Olympians, I imagine you're pretty well versed in the kind of rigors and the sacrifices you have to make, and the work that you have to put into training. Something else I was reading, Muzzie, was how much you enjoy VO2 testing, which you do on a regular basis.
I don't know if that's true. If you've been reading that I enjoy it, we do lots of it.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times. On I do a bit of triathlon on an amateur level. I wondered whether you do that because when I've done it as on a treadmill, and I've done it cycling before. But do you do that specifically on a roller or something for skiing itself to test yourself in the actual sport that you're going to be taking part in?
Yeah, so we do it on roller skis. You get these massive treadmills you can roller ski on. So yeah, we do that through the summer and autumn. Usually do it about once a month, slightly less than that maybe. And then you can see how training's progressing. You can adjust things from the results. So it's on this massive treadmill, and probably similar protocol to the one you use running or on a bike, but just more specific for us.
How would you say, obviously you talk about the periodization, etc. You've got Beijing. I haven't looked to actually see when the cross-country events are, but I know that it starts in early February. When will you get over to Beijing, Youngie?
That's a good question. I'm not sure we know 100% on when we'd be able to go, because there's a lot of travel restrictions and stuff in China at the moment. And I think the last I heard was that there was some, that's one of the things that the team are working on is the travel. And the other unique thing is the cross-country events are right on the altitude limit for what cross-country skiing is allowed. So it's right at 1,800 meters. So we've obviously got to be at altitude before we go. So there's a lot of things that have to fit in for the travel to Beijing.
Okay, that's really interesting, because I was going to ask you about the venue. I've talked to different athletes, and in fact I shared a photo on Twitter earlier today of the Big Air, and that's obviously very urban setting. Other athletes are expecting artificial snow, which is going to make it a lot harder. So you're telling me that that's going to be around 1,800 meters, and there's two things there that make me think straight away. Firstly, that you might actually have real snow rather than artificial snow to be competing on. And secondly, there's a rule that says that cross country skiing has to be below a certain altitude. Is that right, Youngie?
Yes, yeah. So the highest altitude we can compete at is 1800. The FIS have turned a blind eye in the past. For example, we raced in the Engadine Valley last year because they couldn't get another venue that was willing to host the World Cup. But as a they try to keep the competitions below 1800 meters. Yeah.
Okay, and so therefore, Muzzie, you are going to try and adapt your training to get altitude in before you head out to Beijing?
Yeah, so we're used to competing at altitude though, so it's going to be a fairly standard pre championships training block for us. But it's like Youngie said, the difficulty at the moment is we know exactly when we want to travel and we'd plan to travel out, but flights into China are restricted, so we might not be able to travel on the days we were originally planning. So that is the main issue for us at the moment. We're hoping that's all going to get sorted out, and we're
logistical challenges are the one side of it. What about the snow type, Muzzie? I take it it's going to be real snow. That's going to affect your decisions in relation to wax, which must be really important.
Well, where the cross country venue is in the middle of a desert. So it's 1800 meters and it's cold, but right. There's not going to be much natural snow. That will definitely affect the choice of skis and how the waxing is done. But luckily, me and Youngie have a waxer that's going to be sorting out our skis because we're absolutely useless at doing that ourselves. So if you ask us anything about waxing or skis, then we will have completely inconstructive answers.
Right, okay.
I like to pretend like I know what's going on, though. I always say to the waxer, speak about different types of waxes and the flex of the skis and stuff. I like to pretend like I know what's going on. But in reality, I've got no clue. I just let him make all the decisions.
That's really interesting. I actually interviewed, I don't know if you know them, but Izzy and Zoe Atkin, who are two freestyle skiers on the British team as well, who were talking about the importance of wax and also how that kind of, you have to put your trust in the rest of your team and your support team for those kind of decisions.
Yeah, definitely, especially for us. Like, if you have a bit slower skis than somebody who's at the same level as you, then you're going to get beaten by them.
Well, I wish you all the best with that. I know that you've both had podiums before in different events. I think 7 between the two of you, and I know that in Pyeongchang, I think Muzzie, you had a top 10 result. Was it 7th in the 30-kilometer event?
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm interested. What would your aspirations be? How do you go into these games and try and set a goal? What would you be looking at, Youngie?
My main focus is the sprint, which is I was about to use the word luck, but there's a little bit more chance in sprint, and sometimes you can have an amazing day and you get done over by just a bit of rotten luck. Having said that, there's still the best skiers tend to still be in the final.
Yeah, and with sprint, you said you have like a time trial, and then you're doing knockout rounds. In those knockout rounds, how many people are competing at a time?
Yeah, six people competing at a time in the knockout rounds, and the format is such that the winner, the 2 best from each heat go through, and the 2 best lucky losers of 2 fastest times go through to the next round. And so it can have a lot to say if you end up in the first half of the draw or the second half of the draw, and stuff like this can have a lot to say for how you progress through the day.
Of course, it sounds similar to how the system works for skier and border cross. Once you get into those individual rounds, as you say, you can have a bit of luck because people can get tangled up, someone can take a fall, and the start is obviously incredibly important in those kind of events as well.
It depends a little bit on the track for us, and if there's space to get past further on in the track, or if. But sometimes we do see that you need to be in the top 3 out of the start to be able to progress. So it really does depend a bit on the track.
And Muzzie, as far as Beijing is concerned, what would your aspirations be?
Aspiration is definitely to win, but so last Olympics I was 7th, and I feel like I'm a much more stable, stronger skier than I was 4 years ago. So I've definitely got to go in and smash that result. And so from Youngie's looking to do the sprint. For me, it's probably the two longer events, the 50 and the 30K. That are my best events. So kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum there.
Okay, well, I wish you all the best. You're both going in there with a lot of experience, and your fourth games. I wish you all the best. I hope the training in Norway continues to go well, and that you get your flights the way you need them to, and get out to your training in. And I'll be following you closely. We've mentioned before on the podcast. I'm into endurance events, done a few ultra marathons and triathlons and things like that. So I'm really interested in how you train. And I'm very aware that cross-country skiers, in terms of that VO2 test you're talking about, have some of the highest levels of any athlete. So I've got complete respect for you guys, and I wish you all the best. So thanks very much, Muzzie.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's been good fun. Thanks for having us.
Cool. And thanks very much, Youngie.
Yeah, thanks for having us on the podcast.
I read in another interview on the Snowsport GB website that you listen to lots of podcasts while you're doing your endurance training. Is the ski podcast on your list? And if it's not, are you going to be adding it?
Oh, it's definitely going to be on my list as of now. Apart from I will not be listening to this episode because I can't stand the sound of my own voice.